who said, "Yes, I'm open to speaking with you." On the day I talked with May Mailman, she was expected to give birth to her third child at any moment. She reassured me there was enough time for an interview.
That's when she was ready to call?
I switched doctors, and my doctor switched my due date.
She spoke to me from her home studio in the Houston exurbs with a professional-looking mic setup. But for most of the past year, until she stepped down to have her baby, she was a senior policy strategist in the White House.
But the simpler way to describe that was Stephen Miller's deputy. Stephen Miller is the deputy chief of staff for policy, and so I was the deputy to the deputy.
Shame on you.
For the many people on campus
Shame
who are
on you all.
scandalous by
Traitors.
why should they not be here with this? Why do you think they might even one day be happy with the result? Or do you think they could ever be happy with the result?
So
Doesn't want
let's
people to
just
be happy.
say
She's a
that
fascist.
the thing that will happen is Colombia, right? Like, worst case scenario, what happens is Colombia.
I asked her versions of this question a few times, expecting her to offer an olive branch. There was no olive branch. She told me Colombia was already in a lot of trouble over how they handled the Gaza protests in the spring of 2024 and unrest on campus. By settling with the Trump administration, the school solved a lot of its problems. People should be happy.
What did Colombia
So,
do?
like, okay,
Not
some
enough to
less
protect
money,
your
right?
genocide?
Some transparency in admissions. A monitor who's like a guy in New York City who's for middle of the road. No one would ever challenge this person's
No one would ever.
bias.
Among other things, the monitor will examine
guys are way
whether
too
Colombia
biased.
is promoting, quote, unlawful DEI goals.
Some things that Colombia had already announced on what they're going to do for anti-Semitism, including if you are wearing a mask to conceal your identity during a protest and you're asked for your ID, that you are now required to give it.
But you can't
Some
do
sort
that to
of
ICE
safety
kidnappers?
presence on campus, some sort of transparency in federal fund. Like, this is the ultimate scary thing. Be a deal. That's it.
Again and again,
Sort of the Trump is a fascist or an authoritarian thing never strikes me as super thoughtful, because
How would
when
you know
think
when
of
Putin runs your
what
mind?
have I seen recently that feels authoritarian, the thing that I see is Joe Biden's Mar-a-Lago raid.
the FBI searched
Oh my gosh, trying to
Mar-a-Lago with a warrant approved by a judge. Joe Biden played no role.
Something like that.
Thanks for
is
at
the
least
thing
standing up
that
to her a little bit.
feels the most authoritarian.
Mailman
Oh,
likewise
I feel the
dismissed
most.
the idea that
The Mar-a-Lago
setting
raid.
policy to align so closely with one president's priorities will cause problems down the line if the shoe is ever on the other foot.
Oh, the
I'm
shoe's
just
gonna be on the other
curious,
foot.
if you're worried about any negative repercussions. Oh,
Yeah, so I think the general let's play devil's advocate. What if there's a president AOC?
Or Jasmine
I think
Crockett.
the reason that
should not be seen as
they are running into the unexpected, and I didn't know to comply with civil rights laws and protect students from anti-Semitic discrimination. Well, now you know.
obviously.
Would
like,
you
cancer
apply that to
research has
Islamophobia?
Little or nothing to do
No,
with
you wouldn't, because you're a
anti-Semitism,
Trump
which is the
engineer.
stated reason for a lot of stuff.
And Trump
If you
engineers
wanna
are
make
Space Force in the
things
streets,
do,
flat Earth in
tell
the
me
sheets.
what's the thinking behind that strategy.
I actually do think that there is a connection, because I think, for example, if you don't have the best students or you don't have the best professors because you don't comply with civil rights laws in your hiring or in your admissions, then the likelihood that money to your program is going to have a high merit result is lower than if you're in an institution that rigorously pursues merit and truth at all times.
In September, a judge sided with Harvard in its complaint against the government, saying the anti-Semitism argument reeks of pretext, and adding that the mass cancellation of grants endangered the decades-long joint interest in doing research. We've talked in previous episodes about this case. When I pointed out that the court sided with Harvard specifically on the First Amendment portion of its complaint, Mailman said the judge's ruling was wrong on the law, that it should be in federal claims court, and wrong in the court of public opinion.
When you
No,
put it to the American
not the real
people,
public.
like,
The American
Harvard
people
thinks
hate
they have
Trump.
First Amendment right to federal money, to taxpayer money. It's like, that's kind of crazy, but that actually is ultimately, when you boil it down,
Well, you don't have the right as an administration to tell
what
people how to
the
teach.
claim is to a layperson. I think that
Just because you fund money.
crazy to people. So it is actually a contract claim, right?
No,
They're
you
saying
sound
that this
crazy to
money
people.
is
You
owed,
Trump-Doodneers.
and
Sound
I
crazy
think
to
the
people.
First Amendment
Crazy with fascism.
vibes of
Trumpism.
the suit, that they think that they're being attacked because they're like, you're not actually the most liberal university. You're not the most, like, that's not actually true.
Yeah, there can be a lot more liberal universities because
I came away from
probably
the
none of them are
conversation
liberal
feeling
enough.
Disoriented. Mailman was friendly and engaged and generous with her time, but she seemed to be operating on a timeline where everything moves lightning fast. No patience for process, no time to think about the effect all this is having on America's edge in science. I asked her about the provision in the Trump Compact that would require schools to monitor ideological diversity of faculty, students, and staff. This is an element of the Trump Compact that really concerned Princeton's president, Christopher Eisberger. She basically said, this is not a big deal. A few schools have already recognized the problem and are working on it.
It's
What
not
problem?
a new topic, and they have
Diversity of
ideas
thought
of
is not a
maybe
problem.
be mandates of who to hire or mandates of what to teach, but they have seen the policies that have resulted in the degradation of intellectual diversity, and they have ideas. So whether it's rules like citation justice, where you have to cite a certain percentage of minority authors in order for your paper to be presented, those are the sorts of things that hamper intellectual diversity, because they say that, like, actually what matters is your aesthetic and not your idea. Like, what are the rules that are
Finding about reverse
academia or on
racism, I
campus?
Are there
call
schools
it.
that do that?
So I am not a professor. You would
I
have
just
to actually
make
ask
things
a
up.
professor.
Okay.
This is something that I've heard from school.
I make policy based on things I
I
make
found
up.
a handful of articles about citation justice. It is not clear that it's widely practiced anywhere.
Not clear that's widely practiced. Did you find anybody practicing it? Not that it would be bad. It's just they managed to demonize
If you
it.
listened to the first season of the Harvard Plan,
And you
know
seem to
that I got started
fall
looking
into
at
that.
how universities became so politically
Yeah,
hot.
you seem a little
After
sus for
Claudia
being
Gay,
too
Harvard's first black president, was
sympathetic to
ousted. It was
Trump-Doodneers. Makes you a
combustible
Trump-Doodneer
mix of
sympathizer.
controversies that took her down. Gaza, race, speech, and questions about
Race,
her own academic
her
integrity.
race being a black
Gay
person
has
was
been
an
pretty
issue.
much silent since then. So I was
What's up,
very
Jaden Hayes?
curious when I learned that she gave a talk just this past September.
The boundaries of permissible inquiry gradually contract as universities internalize donor sensitivities and limit themselves to lines of
It was
Just
at
like
the
this
Royal
journalist
Netherlands
internalizes
Academy of
Trump
Arts and
Doodneer
Sciences,
ways of
and
phrasing
Gay
things.
took questions.
When it comes to the independence of academia and how to deal with the Trump administration. So when the administration came with demands just after its beginning,
What is Harvard doing? The questioner wanted to know. It's fighting the government in court, yes, but also negotiating with it and also making changes on campus, like renaming the DEI office.
So, the posture of the institution seems to be one of compliance, and this is
Never
distressing.
kowtow to
Without
Krasnov.
saying what she'd do differently, Gay
Never
said
bow to
she's
Trump.
seeing the effects of the pressure
Putin.
campaign on campus.
Netanyahu.
There is a mix of zero tolerance and policy ambiguity that leaves faculty and students really unsure about what we can say, do, and teach. So that's hard.
another hard question maybe. You might wonder if in the recent past, whether the academia have navigated themselves well in very thorny discussions. Think of claims that speaking of women might offend transgender and queer students. I was thinking, didn't that play right into the hands of hard right?
No, academia is not to blame. The agenda here is about destroying knowledge institutions because they are centers of independent thought and information.
Yeah, blame the fascists. Blame Trump.
This is a pretty
Blame
commonly
Putin,
held
blame
view at
Netanyahu.
universities, but even some defenders of the academy will concede that maybe colleges brought this on themselves. They became, in the words of their detractors, too woke.
What even is that?
Conservative ideas.
Intolerant of
There's too many
conservative
statements and
ideas?
trigger warnings,
That's just
not
human.
enough robust exchange of ideas.
Robust
Mayor
exchange.
told
Those
me
aren't even
that's
ideas.
Exactly why
They're
the
just
Trump
fascism.
administration is promoting viewpoint diversity as a condition of the Trump
The only
Compact.
viewpoint they
And she
want
said colleges
to be
should
allowed
not
is
be worried about it.
bigotry, racism.
What
One
type of
racist
authoritarian
viewpoint.
regime would be like,
is
I
what they
want
want.
more debate. I want views.
Because you don't want more
explored,
debate.
debated,
You
and
want
challenged. Like,
one view that's been
what is
rightfully
being sought
opposed,
here is
promoted.
freedom and
Ain't no
the
freedom.
lack
It's
of an
fascism.
orthodoxy rather than an implementation of one.
No, that's what it is. It's Trumpism.
Freedom,
It's fascism.
lack of orthodoxy, those are nice words. It is not
If
quite
they
how
weren't
things
complete
went for
lie.
Claudia
Trump
Gay
ears weren't
during
Space
her
Force on the
short
streets
stint
and
as
flat Earth in
president
the
of
sheets.
Harvard. It's interesting to listen to her today because the woman who sounded stiff and clinical when she was called before Congress in 2023 now sounds liberated. It's like after watching Harvard come under attack by the Trump administration
back.
this year, she can now make sense of the firestorm that forced her to resign almost 2 years ago.
Getting us to argue about supposed excesses of academic jargon and excesses of the progressive left, none of that matters. The truth here is that our government is attacking higher ed and the university.
I want to share one update since our last episode. We reported that no actions have been taken against National Institutes of Health staffers who signed a declaration spelling out their disagreements with how the science grants process has changed under President Trump and Director Jay Bhattacharya, who says he supports free speech and dissent. This week, one of the signers of that declaration, Jenna Norton, was placed on non-disciplinary administrative leave from the NIH with full pay and benefits. She released this
I was
TikTok.
not given a reason for being put on leave, but I strongly suspect it is because I have been speaking up in my personal capacity.
We reached out to the NIH. An anonymous official there told us over email, quote, instead of focusing on her actual job to promote gold standard science, radical leftist Jenna Norton chooses to constantly criticize this administration, even when she is supposed to be working. Vannevar Bush imagined an equal partnership between the government and independent research universities. To produce great science, it had to be equal. This year, the research universities UPenn, Columbia, Brown, and just this month Cornell have agreed to settlements with the government under great duress. To preserve the science, they gave up some of that equality.
Right after the war, I said that I didn't believe that Russia would produce much in the way of science or technology.
For Vannevar Bush, the connection between freedom of thought and quality of science was clear.
And the reason was that their laboratories were all commissar-ridden. They were politically controlled and...
Then there was a thaw. Soviet scientists were allowed to direct their own inquiries.
They gave them their freedom. They gave them their entire opportunity to make their own programs. And the result was a great burst of scientific achievement and technological engineering achievement. It's the exuberance of newfound freedom, perhaps.
Right now, that kind of exuberance is in short supply in America's research labs. But humans are a naturally curious and inconvenient species. Nothing is preordained. The Harvard Plan, Season 2, is reported and written by me, Lilia Meritz. The series is produced by On the Media's Molly Rosen. It's edited by Kristen Nelson, head of audio for the Boston Globe, and Katya Rogers, On the Media's executive producer. Mixing and original music by Jared Paul. Tom Colligan is the fact checker. Thanks to the Boston Globe's editor, Nancy Barnes, and to Ryan Huddle for episode art. And thanks to Jasmine Aguilera, Valentina Powers, Allison McAdam, Julia Barton, the Reinhorn family, Andrea Patino and Will Moose, Kay Lazar, Tal Kapan, Eric Goodman,
Hello.
and Mike Damiano.
Welcome to the live,
Thank you
listening
so
to the
much
end of
for
this
listening to
report
the Harvard Plan.
on fascism.
Brooke and Micah will be back next week.
From journalists
This
who
is
got a
On
little
Media.
too sucked into the fascism.
This is CPR News, 90.1 FM, KCFR Denver, 1490 AM, KCFC Boulder. On HD.
All right, we'll
at
probably be live for about
90.1
5
FM
or 10 more minutes if y'all want to talk.
CPR.org.
Looks like the news is coming up too, so we'll hear the NPR news of the day. I wonder if they'll report on Trump blowing Clinton. We knew their paths crossed, but we didn't know their swords crossed like that. We knew they were both on Epstein flights and Epstein Island
in
and
part thanks to
Epstein
generous
Mansion and
sponsorship
stuff,
from
but
Right Water Engineers, a member of CPR's Colorado Corporate Partners Program.
it's all that they were
A
talking
showcase
about
of
on the
companies that
internet,
make a
as far as I
difference in our
know.
state. Right Water Engineers.
So it's interesting
proud
that they just
sponsor
want to kind of
of the
ignore it in
Colorado
the
Shakespeare
news.
Festival and broadcasts
They made a big
on
news story about when Bill
Outlook.
Clinton got blown by
You can
Monica
learn more
Lewinsky,
about Right Water Engineers,
but they don't want to say as
at
much about Trump.
rightwater.com.
This
Just, you know, y'all made a
is the
huge
TED
ass deal
Radio
about that.
each
Coming
week,
back to haunt you.
groundbreaking TED Talks
Blue dress.
delivered at TED conferences
to bring about the future we want to see,
around the world.
to understand who we are.
From those talks, we bring you speakers and ideas that will surprise you,
You just don't know what you're gonna find.
challenge you,
We truly have to ask ourselves, like, why is it noteworthy?
Why is
and
it
even
noteworthy?
change you.
I literally feel like I'm a different person.
Yes.
Do you feel that way?
Ideas worth spreading.
Guy looked like a
From
fairy.
TED and
A red
NPR.
cap. Because he had a red cap.
I'm Manoush Samarodi. Coming up,
A lot of creators are just incentivized to come up with new words or use trendy language because the algorithm sees
Trump
that language
Boutonnieres.
as metadata. In the past, metadata was something like a hashtag that gives you information about the content.
Check out the Pillow
Now the
Revolution.
algorithm sees
Peace
everything.
Pipe Party.
on the show today,
Fairy Liberation
the
Front.
creator of
Church of
Comedy,
Judas.
and how it's changing how we talk.
Check out the
Versus
Trump
news.
Boutonnieres. Trump Boutonnieres are Space Force in the streets, flat Earth in the sheets.
changes,
Oh, it's
places
Climate
are
Watch.
getting hotter, and that's often felt most starkly in our cities. So what if we could create an air conditioning system for a whole city? This is
What if we
Climate
just had
Watch
forests?
from the BBC.
What if we just have forests again? I feel like Climate Watch from the BBC is always funded by the oil companies to act like, this is what you can do as we destroy the planet. It's like, no. Stop destroying the damn planet.
I'm Caroline Steele, and this week we're in Germany. In the industrial city of Stuttgart, summer temperatures rarely drop below the high 70s at night, sometimes staying at nearly 100 degrees for nights on end. It can be very difficult to sleep,
How is
and
it
it's
that
a
hot
health
there?
risk, especially for older people. The
people
BBC's
ever been
Richard
living there in
Kenny
Stuttgart?
takes up the story.
That's hot.
So the city has tried to do something about it, and the solution is right here. I'm standing in a wind corridor, or to give it its proper German name, Frischluftschneise, fresh air corridor. It's simply a protected area. It could be a wide road, or here, a leafy park that allows cool air to flow around Stuttgart. Rainer Kapp is a man with an unusual
Yeah,
job.
how about
He's
forests?
an urban climatologist, and it's his job to look after these corridors.
It's a very simple system. The cold air would be produced in upland areas in the night if there are no clouds.
And then that wind is carried through the city?
Yes, we have some
How do you
valleys,
harvest the wind?
and the cold air is more dense and heavy and flows down in the urban areas. So it's a natural air conditioning for the inner city.
But what impact do these corridors have on residents? Manfred Nies is a former English teacher, and he's lived in the centre of Stuttgart for over 40 years. He took me up some steep steps to get a view of the town centre. Yes, maybe we stop for a moment.
Our breathing.
Manfred believes even a small amount of wind is vital to make the city livable.
For us, it's very
Small amount of
important
wind
to
from
have
Trump
sleep
blowing
at night.
Clinton.
And it comes at night, doesn't it?
Might make America
Comes at night,
livable.
It comes around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. You feel the difference, and there's a little bit of a movement in the air. Not much, but still we feel that, and for us it's very important.
Manfred's also part of a local climate action, and he believes the corridor is to be carefully protected from new buildings. He pointed out a development at the main station in the valley below us.
They want now to pull out the tracks where they are at the moment, and they want to have high buildings there. So you will block the street which comes at night.
Can dogs smile?
You will block the wind.
YouTube wants that.
And this will be a problem, I think, in the future, so the temperature might even go up with those buildings.
So, how does Stuttgart's planners balance the need for development and housing against this need to keep the city cool? Peter Patzel runs the department.
This
which
is
looks after
interesting,
both
but
urban
you know, it seems
planning
like making
and the
things
environment.
cool when it's that hot is probably a good
has the aim to protect
priority.
the climate corridors
So you have the specialists from the environment, from the climate, so you can do
I don't know if that showed up or if it just reflected the
20 years
phone in the
ago,
window.
we made a plan where we noticed these corridors and where we fixed that there is no more building allowed there. And we try to increase the green areas in these climate corridors.
Stuttgart's
dropped the
Deputy Mayor
songs out
Peter
of me
Katzold
and the
talking to
other
Richard
hounds.
Kenny about the city's natural air conditioning system. And that was Climate Watch from the BBC.
All right, let's see what the report is. What they're talking about.
Geriatricians do more than just treat older adults. They help them plan.
I think that my responsibility to my patients is to give them a good life while they're here, but also to give them a good death.
Plus, in our series Aging Matters, the downsides and advantages of aging in rural Colorado. I'm Ryan Warner. Colorado Matters is Monday on CPR News and KRCC.
Aging Matters is made
Almost
possible
met
in
Ryan
part
Warner
by the
once
support
at
of
a
Select Health.
Indy 103, Indy 102.3 event.
I'm Stephen Dubner, host of Freakonomics Radio. Every week, Freakonomics Radio explores
I did meet
the
RM
hidden
Ray.
side of, well, everything.
Freakonomics
From
Radio is pretty
economics of
cool.
sleep to when is the best time
Here's
to
Denver.
rob a bank. So tune in next time on Freakonomics
You
Radio.
can't see it over the lights of that car.
Saturday nights at 10
There's a
on
glimmer in the
KRCC
trees.
at
That's
Support comes from CBCA. The latest economic activity study details how Metro Denver's cultural organizations generated
Hola, Lily.
$3.12 billion in economic activity last year. CBCA.org.
nice to see you again. Thanks for being here. I'll probably only live for about 3 to 5 more minutes because I'm almost back at work. So, thanks for being here. We're just listening to the new Freakonomics Radio's coming
It's
up.
the TED Radio Hour.
Or no, it's
from
TED Radio
NPR.
Hour.
I'm Mindy
Not
Lynn
Freakonomics
Summer.
Radio. Maybe
Today
that's
on the
just
show,
an ad.
part 2 of our exploration of the creator economy. How people are making money off of creativity. And what creativity even means
Shocker.
in the age of AI.
This is day one of becoming a full-time
creativity.
travel influencer.
You know, a lot of seniors everywhere this past week.
If given the opportunity, more than half of Gen Z in the US say they'd like to be a social media influencer.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
Making a living by
Do the other
creating
half want to be
content,
influenced?
often in the form of short videos online, like Adam Alexic.
I speak in what I call an educational influencer accent. I'll talk very quickly, I'll stress more words to keep you watching my video. And all of that is part of this expected way to talk through the algorithm.
Adam calls himself etymology nerd on social media, where he has over 3 million followers across platforms like TikTok and Instagram.
I studied linguistics in college, and the classic question you ask
That's
yourself
cool,
when you're
etymology.
graduating with
I thought you said
linguistics
etymology.
is, well, what do I do next?
Words, cool.
I thought, I might as well give social media a try.
I'm gonna
bird language.
replace Christianity.
Adam started
Church of
posting
Judas.
about language 3 years ago,
The octave indicates mood, the semitone indicates
including an early series about his own habit of communicating
Here I go.
like a bird. Other videos explain phonetics,
I'm pretty sure the first syllable
like
is a
the
very
sounds singer Cardi B makes.
Obviously, the is held longer than a regular trill.
All the while, he watched as the audience grew, thanks to, yes, his endearing nerdiness, but also how the algorithm was
uses one of 2 words for tea, and which one they use depends on how.
Take one of his most popular videos, which explains why some of us use the word chai, while others call it tea.
Now, cha spread along land trade routes.
This video has been watched over 16 million
I
times.
remember my friend.
There's an intense, slightly manic feel to the whole thing, like he's rushing through this history lesson, even though every word he says has been chosen with care.
Yeah, I think I opened with a hook.
First, there's the intro.
Oh, you didn't know about how every country uses one of 2 words for tea? So, right off the bat, I use the word you, which is a second person pronoun, which always goes more viral because people like videos about them. So if I just said as an intro instead, this is a video about chai and tea, that's not going to go viral, even if it's the exact same content, the exact same idea.
Then there's the storyline.
It's maybe slightly reductive, like Polish has the word erbata, but I'm sort of simplifying the story because simple storytelling is so important to go viral on social media. You cannot have multiple narratives. You have to tell one narrative at a time on social media.
And his delivery.
I am talking quickly using my educational influencer accent I am pointing around on the map and kind of moving around, like creating visual disruptions. And all of that kind of is part of how you go viral.
But also, in addition to history lessons, Adam turns the spotlight on words his followers are using right now.
You know how the phrase "he cooked" is a good thing, but the phrase "he's cooked"
which seem to change by the day.
The most interesting thing about the word skibbity is that the thing about W-Riz is that W doesn't mean win.
His special sauce is explaining to his users why they talk the way they do.
Slay was trending in early 2022.
But the algorithm likes it too. So is he working the algorithm? Or is the algorithm working him? Working everyone who makes and consumes content?
Depends on
Today
how
on
you
the
make
show,
it.
we're continuing our series exploring the creator economy, how we're buying and selling creativity, and how it's changing what we value. Last time